Namaskar. In this video, let us have a look at the wider picture, the deeper picture, going beyond just the content of those farming bills. Otherwise, that is too limiting. We have critiqued it, but saying what is wrong is not enough. Saying what is right and having a vision of what direction to go is very important for us, for the farmers, for the agriculture sector in India. The key point which we are going to see today is inequality. One knows from reading here and there and from it's being mentioned in the media that over the last 10, 15, 20, 50 years, there's been a lot of movement of inequality in society, income inequality, and one segment of society is cornering more and more of the wealth, and the other section, the larger section, majority section, is getting less and less. So while we may be aware, intellectually that there is a thing like income inequality and it is growing, some people are earning more, some less, but how exactly does it help us understand the problem of farmers, the distress of farmers in India? That is a thing I would like us to look at in this video. How has your income grown over the last 10, 15, 20, 25 years? Think about it. Let me share my example with you. In 1989-90, I moved from Bombay to Delhi, and at that time I recall me and my partner, our household income was 6,000 rupees, and out of which we spent about 2,000 to 2,200 rupees, which means about 35 to 38% of our household income on food. When I say food, I mean on provisions, rice, dal, sabzi, etc. We are not counting the visits to the restaurants, etc. My last job I quit in December 2007, 13 years ago. At that time, our household income was about 1,25,000 to 1,30,000 per month, and at that time we were spending on food, provision supplies for home stood at about 12,000 rupees a month. Now, if you see the share of spending on food in 1989-90 to share of spending on food in 2007, which is about 17 to 18 years. In 17 to 18 years, in my personal experience, from a share of 35 to 38% of my income going towards food, I reached a stage where I was spending about 12% of my income on food. So this is a share the farmers are getting. While income of various other segments are growing, have grown at a certain good and brisk rate, the share of farmers' income, has it kept pace? Has it got its share of growth in income is the key question here to answer. In 1970, the price of wheat paid to farmers, the MSP price of wheat paid to farmers, was 76 rupees per quintal. In 2016, which is 46 years later, the price of wheat, MSP price of wheat paid to an Indian farmer was 1,450 rupees per quintal. From 76 rupees per quintal to 1,450 rupees per quintal. This is a rise of about roughly 19 times. All right? Sounds good for the farmer? Now let us compare this with the increase in salary of government employees, basic salary plus DNS allowance. And I have these statistics, researched by Shri Devendra Sharma, a very well-known agriculture expert and economist, and he says he has done this comparison that while the farmers' MSP price grew by 19 times in those 46 years, the salary of government employees went up by as much as 150 times. It went up by about 130 to 150 times for college professors. It went up by 280 to 320 times for teachers. and etc., etc. This gives a real startling pointer to us, doesn't it? That between 1970 and 2016, we have this gross inequality spread. So while the others have been gaining more income, the farmers have been seeing a dwindling income in their hands. And this relative income is actually the real troubling factor in society. It is not just low income. The income is always in comparison to what the others are getting. And that is a factor which has always gone against the farmers. So what this tells us is that if the farmer's income were to have risen at the same rate as that of other government employees, then the price of wheat today, the MSP price of wheat, should have been 5,100 rupees per quintal, not 1450 per quintal as it stands today. It may come as a surprise to us when we see this now, but not so to the government. The government has repeatedly formed committees, repeatedly done surveys, repeatedly done their research and statistics. They have had these figures all the time in front of them. A government study of the period 1985 to 2005 showed that the farm income rise, if calculated against inflation, the rise was actually zero. That means what the farmer got in 2005, the price was absolutely the same as he got in 1985 if you adjust it for inflation. Whereas all other incomes have risen, inflation plus some more. So these studies keep happening in the government. The government has an active statistics department. It knows the MSP price it pays. So it is not news for the government. But for decades and decades, whether this party comes in power or that, we have somehow not faced, the government that is, has not faced this question, the truth of this question, of this growing inequality which is making the farmer poor. For example, there is the economic survey which is done every year. Now the economic survey of 2016 or 17 mentioned that the average farm family income, farm household income in India stood at 20,000 rupees per annum. 20,000 rupees per annum, not per farmer, but for a farming household. So there could be 5-6 people working, living and working towards that income. 20,000 rupees. And do you know that a class 4 employee, a peon's starting salary in government, according to the latest pay commission, is fixed at 18,000 rupees per month? This is glaring, isn't it? The kind of the income that we pay the farmer, for the food that he produces for us, is simply not fair. And that is at the heart of this whole issue of farmers' distress. Let me share with you a personal experience of mine of producing food and taking it to the markets for sale, and what I got for it. This experience of mine is about 7 or 8 years old. Not from this place where I'm doing organic farming now in Savantwadi. This was at my friend's farm outside Indore, and I spent about 6 months there. And I had a half acre to 3/4 acre patch of land in which I cultivated a variety of vegetables. It was winter, and as in the north, you get lovely varieties of vegetables in winter. Now I wanted to experiment growing potatoes. I had not been able to do that in Uttarakhand earlier, so I took an additional half-acre land and took a local farmer's guidance. Except that I did not use the fertilizer he was using. I used natural farming methods and grew potatoes. So I recall that we had a harvest of roughly about a ton, nearly 1,000 kilograms of organically grown potatoes. And I also recall that we had a lot of fun learning the whole process of potato cultivation, of even harvesting it, because I had a lot of my friends who came to the farm, and we had all the joy of doing organic farming together. But when it came to selling those potatoes, we sorted them out according to sizes, and I had these three categories: bigger ones, medium ones, small ones, and we had many sacks, dozens of sacks of each. And the first lot which I sent to the APMC, to the market, official agriculture market in Indore, I got a prize, you won't believe it, of 3 rupees 25 paisa and 3 rupees 80 paisa or something, and 4 rupees 80 paisa. Between 3 rupees 50 and 4 rupees 80, this is the price per kilo I got for my three varieties, three categories of potatoes. And it was very, very depressing. I mean, so that means even if if I were to sell all the 1,000 kilos at 3 rupees 50 paisa, what am I getting? Can you believe it? 3.5 months of work, of growing it, tending to it, harvesting it, and then you get 1,000 kilos which can feed how many families? And what the return that I get for it is the gross, what I get for it is 3,500 rupees. That's it. How can a farmer survive like this? You know, this question hit me. At that time, this was my first experience. Till then, and even subsequently, most of my farming is for self-sufficiency. But that was one experience I had of growing far beyond my needs and taking it to the official APMC market for sale. And it was a very depressing experience. And this is not a solitary experience. Since I am in farming now, I can share with you what my neighbors here, the farmers in the Savantwadi in my village, are getting. This is a rice growing land. Rice grows aplenty here, and my neighbor here, they grow more than a ton, more than 1,000 kilos. They need about 250 kilos for themselves, 2.5 quintals, and the rest they sell in the market. And the price they got last year, if I'm not mistaken, was about for paddy is about 1,500 rupee. That is the really top-notch price that you get, 1,500 rupees per quintal. So you can imagine. So if you're selling 7 quintals, you're talking about getting 10,000 rupees. So this survey, which showed that the average income of a farming family in India is about 20,000 rupees per annum, is actually correct. And if that is the average, you can imagine that it is the better farmers of, say, Punjab, Haryana, who grow wheat in large quantities, and some other big farmers. They are the ones on the higher side of this average, getting probably 35,000 per annum. And they are balanced by the guys who get below the average. Can you imagine people who get just 5,000, 10,000 rupees per annum as income? Of course, when we say this per annum as income, we should not discount the fact that they are selling after they take what they want, after fulfilling their needs. So for instance, if a farmer is growing only wheat, or say wheat and one more crop in the monsoon, then probably he's taking what he needs for his family and then selling the rest. But of course, since he doesn't grow everything, he needs cash surplus to be able to buy all the other essentials, of his food requirements for his home. Because our farming has also become very restricted and narrow, we are not doing the kind of multi-cropping that we used to earlier. That is another factor, of course, which has contributed to this state of affairs. But primarily, what we are discussing in this video is this income inequality and how little we pay our farmers for the food they produce for us. Now, with this situation, what we have just encapsulated here, if you were a farmer, would you want to continue doing farming? Would your children want to continue doing farming? No, isn't it? And that is exactly what is happening. According to the last census, which is 2011 census, between 2004-05 and 2010-11, more than 30 million farmers in India left farming and moved out. This is roughly about 2,000 farmers a day. That is a huge number. And is this what we want? And is this what the government wants? Are we keeping the prices low so that we chase the farmers out from their occupation? Is this desirable for us? Now, added to this story of migration away from farming is also naturally another related subject. What is the average age of the farmer in India? If you have the younger generation moving out, obviously the average age increases. And from the statistic that I have, it says that the average age of an Indian farmer in 2016 was 50 plus. And this is not just in India, you know. And apparently this has happened in countries which followed the kind of modern agriculture practices which India is also now trying to imitate. And in their nations, this has happened much before us. It has happened in the United States of America. It has happened in Japan. If for a moment I can look at these figures and share with you, the average age of a farmer in the US is 58 years, while that of a Japanese farmer is 67 years. Every third European farmer is more than 65 years old. So everywhere they are quitting farming. And now because they have gone on this path ahead of us, and some of those nations are worried about this. Japan, I believe, is actually embarking on a massive plan to encourage people below 45, to enter farming. Now, seeing that these people went ahead with the modern farming agriculture methods, and this is what happened there, what is the learning? I mean, we are following them. We can surely get some learning from what they have faced, and take some preventive measures if we want. And that is where this inequality thing is so important. Migration of farmers away from farming being seen as not a sought after profession. All these are only independent stories, but they all get integrated when we see why. And why is because we are not paying them enough. Not all the farmers who are giving up are going to the city as migrant labor. While that may be bad as it is, there is something worse too. Some farmers just give up. Not give up farming, they give up living itself. Do you know that more than 250,000 farmers have committed suicide in India in the last 12 to 15 years? It is a sorry statistics. In some years, we have as many as 50 farmers committing suicide each and every day. It's time we considered, all this. Our perspective cannot be so narrow as defined by these three farm bills. We have to move beyond and have a holistic approach and see that there is justice for all in society. Much of this is not known to many of us, living and growing up in cities. I have left that life for the last 10 years, but I still have all my friends and much of my family staying there. So I do know that while all of my friends and family are deeply concerned when I share these subjects with them, somehow these facts have not been brought out. People aren't aware of all these, the nitty-gritties of it. So while we may be very proud of the fact that for the last 20-25 years, ever since liberalization, we have been growing at a fast pace, and that we are one of the fastest growing economies in the world, all that is okay, a little bit of pride is all right, but we have to acknowledge the fact that this has been accompanied by a massive rate of growth in inequality. Much of the so-called new wealth created has been cornered by the rich, through crony capitalism and through inheritance. Let me give you some more figures. You may have read it elsewhere, but it is shocking to our conscience that the top 10% of the Indian population, 10%, holds 77% of the total national wealth in India. 73% of the wealth generated in 2017 went to the richest 1% of the population. We had 9 billionaires in India in 2000, and today we have 119 billionaires, many of whom are on the international Forbes list, etc., etc. So while the economic growth has been there, it has been very, very lopsided. Whenever I tell my friends that we are also part of the problem, many of them wonder how. I mean, we are working hard for our money. What is wrong with our earning so much money? It is not that we should not be rewarded for our hard work, but all types of hard work in society must have some kind of commensurate rewards. Any income is not the issue here. It is income disparity which is the issue. it is the income, richness and poorness is only a relative term. If all of us were to get relatively, a similar income, then it would not be such an unequal society. Let me share this example of 1985 when I first joined the Times of India. After 1 year of traineeship, I got confirmed as a reporter with a salary of 2,300 rupees. My chief reporter, who was of 10 or 11 years seniority, head of the department, was getting probably 7,500, 8,000 rupees. My news editor of 15 years seniority was getting some 11,000 rupees, and the editor, resident editor, was getting 15,000 rupees. And of course, the more senior you are, there may be some perks. The resident editor may have a car, to drop in to and from the office. But the fact is that from the junior most reporter to the resident editor, the multiple was just 7 to 8 times. 2,000, 15,000. Just 7.5 to 8 times multiple. And this shows a reasonably well balanced, where there is more work for more experience. I mean, there is more reward for more experience, but it is not widely disparate. But today it's not so. It's not so. You have people earning 15,000 rupees a month, and you also have people earning 3 lakh rupees a month or 5 lakh rupees a month. So it is a relative income that's important, and this relative income, the importance of it has not been made clear to us, its importance, because society in the last 20 years has driven us towards just grabbing more and more, increasing your share. Isn't this what the newspapers say for the corporations? You have to increase your market share, you have to increase your share of the pie. These are the phrases being used to justify a kind of steamroller capitalism, which is created a vast inequality which we must be aware of. One may ask, why have the farmers been paid so low? There are various reasons, but one important reason is that the government feels that food prices must be kept low. Why? Because there are poor people. Food prices must be kept low so that the poor can afford it, and by doing it, by keeping it low, you're creating more poor among the farmers. It's a real contradiction. This has not been addressed by our very senior economists and by the governments, successive governments so far. This thing about keeping the prices low for the poor, that is the non-farming poor, the urban poor. But the urban poor have become poor. Why? Why can't their salaries be so increased, their income be so increased that they are able to afford food at its proper prices? These are many very interrelated questions that have really been brushed under the carpet and not been addressed. And the folly with this logic is, the longer you keep food prices artificially low, which means farmers' incomes artificially low, so that it can help the urban poor, you're actually creating more and more farmers poor who will leave farming and then become part of the urban poor. So this is a complete disaster scenario, and this is like one of those other problems which modern economics, modern living has created, like pollution. We create more and more of it. We keep talking about it, but we don't do anything about it because we are trapped in that system. Similarly, this is another a systemic trap which we have created for ourselves. But it's a man-made problem, so I'm sure man can also find a solution for it. Because the issue of inequality is something of which we are a part. The people who do well, in coming from urban landscapes, cosmopolitan, developed good careers, earned a lot of money. We also have to understand we are part of this problem, and no one is willing to reduce, think of or offer a reduction in his income. But somewhere a part of us also says that that there should be justice in society, isn't it? Every human being, however deeply he may be a part of this problem, there is a human side to him. There is the heart part of him which will respond positively to this farmer story. And I'm sure all of us do want that there should be justice even for the farmer. There are ways which it can happen. There are ways in which we can participate and make that happen. We will look at one such example in the next video. Thank you. Namaskar.